G'day everyone, my name is Mary and today I'm going to make a little video answering some of the questions you guys have about my snakes. For those of you who don't know, I have two ball pythons. Now, ball pythons, or royal pythons as they're also called, are one of the most docile, submissive, calmest snakes ever that I'm aware of. They are the calmest snakes ever. They are called ball pythons because their natural response to any kind of stimulus really is to curl up into a ball. They're not aggressive, they're not very territorial, and they're just very, very good starter snakes. Ball pythons are also incredibly popular because of the vast range of morphs that they come in. Morphs is the term used to describe the colors and their patterns. There is literally so many. I've been trying so hard to learn a lot of the morphs just because I really like these snakes, but there are hundreds upon hundreds of different morphs, and new morphs are being created all the time. 5 years ago, there was a tiny fraction of the morphs that there are available today. In terms of getting a snake that is a particular color or that has a particular pattern that you like, ball pythons do have such a huge range. Now, the normal ball pythons can be very cheap, like 40, 50 bucks. And the very special morphs, or the very rare colorations, can go for like $10,000. I'm not even exaggerating here. When the banana morph came out, those snakes were priced $5,000 and higher, and now you can get them for like 300-ish, depending on where you look. Now, the two snakes that I have, both of them, like I said, both of them are ball pythons. One of them is a pastel ivory, and this is Ben, and that's who I'm about to show you. And our newest snake is a VPI xanthic, and her name is Meryl, and I'll show you her later. So this is Ben's terrarium. You can keep ball pythons in tubs or in rack systems, but I personally prefer to keep them in a tank like this because I feel like it's more natural. But ball pythons are very easy to care for, but I have nothing against people who keep theirs in tanks. So long as they're kept in a healthy environment, that is totally fine. But anyway, this is Ben's terrarium. It is kind of split into two sides. This is his hot side and this is his cold side. It is very important that you have a heat gradient for any kind of snake. Snakes are cold-blooded animals. They need to be able to regulate their internal body temperature, otherwise they cannot properly digest their food. And they need to be able to go to a place that is hot when they need to warm up and go to a place that is cool when they need to cool down. Now, the best method of heating up your terrarium or your tub, if you're keeping your snakes in tubs, is with a heat pad. Now, you may notice we actually have a heat lamp as well, and I'll talk to you about why in just a second. A heat pad gets stuck to the bottom of the tank. I can't show you because I can't lift up the tank there. It's actually really heavy, but it is stuck to the bottom of this tank here. This is the cord that comes out of it, and it is attached to a thermostat, like you can see here. The thermostat is pretty much essential, guys. You need to be able to set the temperature and to be able to properly regulate the temperature. Something like a heat rock that you cannot regulate the temperature on, I do not at all recommend, because you have no way to tell if it's too hot, and your snake or your lizard or whoever else you have won't be able to immediately tell if they're being hurt by it, and they can get severely badly burned, and the result of those burns can be fatal. So it is really important that you have a thermostat. Now, because this tank is big, I can't remember the exact dimensions of it. We have the heat lamp up here, you can see, to help raise the ambient temperature of this whole kind of top side of the tank. The two essential things to have on the hot side of your tank, aside from your heat mat, is a water bowl and a hide. It's also nice to have a little thermometer, even though it is regulated down there, and we also have an electric thermometer so that we can just click and see what the temperature is on the hot side here. The water inside this bowl evaporates very quickly, and I fill it up pretty much every day, and that also is a water bottle that I use to help mist the tank and to help him stay hydrated. Oh, and look, he's coming to say hello. Hey, little buddy. He can hear me out here talking, and he probably thinks it's feeding time. On the cold side of the tank, we have the same things. We have a water bowl and we have another hide. That hide is a lot bigger than that hide. We have this exact same hide on both sides of the tank, but he actually is kind of too big for this hide. He doesn't use his hot hide as much as he uses his cold hide, but we couldn't fit two of these big hides in here. So Once he really does outgrow this one, we are gonna have to rearrange it a little bit more, take out some of his fun things so that we can fit in a full-sized hide for him. He spends the grand majority of his time in his cold hide, and that's plenty big enough. If anything, that's a little bit too big for him. Then we have these fun little climbing things in his skull, which is too big to fit inside of now, but I like how it looks. We have a log at the back here that he can go fully inside of at the back, which serves as another warm hide. And he has this tree, which he does sometimes climb on, but ball pythons aren't climbing snakes. They like to be on the ground. So while they can sometimes utilize trees and branches and stuff, they're not like a tree python, which likes to live up high. Oh, I love that he's coming out to say hi to me while I'm talking. He's such a cutie pie. Okay, so Ben is, about a year old. Opening the door is scary. Hey, boo-boo. All of those little pits, or those nostrils, some of you guys think they're nostrils, those are actually heat pits, and they're for thermal regulation. Like I said earlier, he needs to be able to tell hot from cold so that he can keep his body temperature where it needs to be, and those adorable little pits on his snoot help him to sense heat. I will open this up and take him out. He's gonna jump back a little bit while I open it, because it's scary. There's my beautiful boy. See what I mean about it being pretty much too big for this hide now. You get deceived by the size of his head. So, like I said, ball python, not gonna bite you. Okay, so this is Ben. I think the last time I showed Ben in a video, he was quite a bit smaller than this, so he has grown quite a lot. He is a very healthy weight for his age. He's a really good eater. I will talk a little bit more about feeding in a little bit because ball pythons are notoriously bad at eating. He is extremely good at being handled. He is absolutely beautiful, as you can see. He's become a lot more yellow as he's gotten older. He is a very curious snake. He has these beautiful markings on his face which kind of look like angry eyebrows, which I love. And he has a very faint pattern on his back. He isn't pure white. He's not a super Mojave or a blue-eyed Lewistic or anything. He's not albino. A lot of people think that they see a white snake and they're albino. White snakes or albino snakes actually have orange and yellow markings on them, or orange or yellow, depending on which kind of albino it is. And also at the bottom of his tail, it's kind of purple, which I don't know if you'll be able to pick up the colors there properly. But it's kind of a yellow, little yellow streak with purple on the sides. They have very good grip.
Let go. Yeah, buddy. It's okay. I got you, boo.
Is there anything you think you want to say to people who would consider getting a ball python?
They're pretty cool. And you can't boop them on the nose. Boop. They back away. They're like, nope, nope.
Boop the snoot. But they have super pretty little faces. They look like little puppy dog faces. Yeah, they got little head boobs.
Little head boobs. Boop. He's like, stop it. Stop moving me.
So like I said, Ben is about a year old. And so you compare his size to the baby's size. Now she's looking out at us. Alright, so this is baby Meryl. She's got the same setup, so she has identical hides in her hot side and her cold side. She looks like she's grown a little bit.
Yeah, she's a little bigger.
She was very tiny when we got her. But Meryl and Ben, some of the differences that I noticed, apart from their coloring, is that Meryl will stick her tongue out way more than Ben will. So she's sticking her tongue out to get senses of what's around her. She's tasting the air, but it's also kind of their sense of smell. And whereas Ben will barely ever do that, I just think he does not care what's around him. So she is a VPI exanthic, and they're kind of more of a silvery gray color, but she looks a little more brown than silver, but she's still a very pretty snake. Got a little bit of substrate stuck in her mouth.
Yeah, she won't let us get it. She's like...
She does not want her snoot boop. No, 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 no. Alright, so feeding size. You think they've got such tiny little heads and necks that you want to feed them something small, but you actually feed them something that's the same size as the largest point of their body. So she eats, what does she eat? Fuzzy mice or small mice?
Small mice.
small mice now, and Ben eats small rats. So you can see the difference in their fat butt size. But Meryl is actually gonna end up being bigger than Ben because she's a girl. So she's not as good with being held and stuff as Ben is, just because she's newer and she's younger and she's not as used to it right now. But she'll get better.
So rigid.
Yeah. She's more of what I imagine a normal ball python is in terms of temperament and behavior. Ben's a little bit special. For decorations in hers, she has a skull and a Mega Man helmet. And some nice trees and some little rocks. And she seems to like it in there. She's not as active as Ben is, but like I said, she's still getting used to the whole thing. So yeah, they eat about once a week, but ball pythons are super picky eaters. So if you are looking to not waste a whole lot of money on frozen thawed rodents, I would probably suggest not getting a ball python. If you don't have the patience to try and make them eat when they don't want to eat, then this isn't a good snake for you, because they can be very, very tricky to feed. And that's because they're so docile and they're so passive and they don't want to just be aggressive and strike at things, which is a great thing, but that does make it harder to feed them. Ben went on a winter fast because that is breeding season for ball pythons. So instead of eating, he just wanted to look for a mate, even though he's still a baby himself and he probably isn't even big enough to go and copulate. But that's all he wanted to do, and he didn't want to eat, and that scared me so bad because I was so worried about him. But as long as they're not losing weight, it doesn't really matter how long they miss out on meals for. But we do have to throw away a lot of frozen thawed rodents that they don't want to eat. And also, if you're not okay with feeding rodents to your snake, I know I love rats personally. I had rats as pets, they're fantastic pets. If you're not okay with feeding your animal what it needs to eat in order to live a healthy life, then you shouldn't get that animal. A snake cannot be vegan, that's just not possible. He can't eat chicken, like little diced cubed chicken. He needs to eat the entire rat in order to get the nutrients that he needs to live, which is a little bit sad, but it's also the circle of life, and it's not like we need to feed him live animals. I wouldn't ever recommend feeding live unless it was an absolute last resort. Not only because it's not like nice to see another creature be killed, but also because rats are actually powerful animals. They have teeth and they have claws, and they can really hurt your snake. They can claw it and bite it, and if you leave even a tiny mouse alone with your snake and your snake isn't hungry and doesn't want to eat it, then that mouse can kill your snake. And I don't know, I think it's not worth risking your snake's life in order to feed live. So I would definitely recommend getting frozen thawed. They come in little boxes that you get from the pet store, and it's really not that scary a process. What else? Oh, where to buy your ball python or your any other snake. I do not recommend getting your snake from a pet store. If you go and look at your local pet store that has snakes and go and look at the snakes that there are there, most often they'll be starving, they won't have a hot hide and a cold hide, they won't have hot water and cold water, they will just be in a tiny little place and they will be very unhealthy, and it's not a good snake to buy. Plus, it will be overpriced. Pet stores charge so much more than a proper breeder because they have to make a profit. They'll buy it from a proper breeder and then they'll want to make money on top of that. So I do not recommend getting them from a pet store. There are many good breeders that will give you healthy, stress-free, good, beautiful snakes. I do recommend looking around, reading reviews, making sure it's a nice, proper, well-established breeder and not just a backyard breeder that isn't treating the animals correctly. Ben is from Snakes at Sunset, and Meryl, I think maybe Bob Clark Reptiles, I can't really remember. But we looked around not only to find one that was good, but to find morphs that we liked. It's going into my shirt because it's warm. If you don't have a place that is local to you where you can get your snake from, you can get it from great distances away with overnight shipping, and they can do it really, really safely, and the snakes are in no possible way harmed. Of course, there is some level of risk that you might get a mail worker who just chucks the boxes around and stuff, but that is not legal. They're supposed to be treating the boxes with the absolute utmost care possible. So long as people aren't breaking the law and doing their job irresponsibly, then your snake should be in perfect health. Oh, Meryl right now is going up into the helmet. I've never seen her do that before. So, I think that answers all of the questions that you guys have asked me. But if you have any others, feel free to leave them in the comments. If there's anything that I didn't explain properly, feel free to ask it again and I'll try to write it down and explain it better. I just thought that I should make a quick little video about them because they are such amazing, amazing animals. Look how beautiful he is. Oh, one thing I get asked a lot is, my parents don't like snakes and I want a snake. How can I convince my parents? You're probably not gonna like my answer, but just wait. Just wait until you have your own house. Wait until you're an adult that you can make your own decisions. I don't think it's worth causing tension in your own family by begging for an animal when you're not gonna live with your parents your whole life. These babies live for a long time. That's a really long commitment. And chances are, if you're young enough to be living with your parents, it means you haven't gone to university or college or whatever yet, which means you're not living in your house that you're gonna be living in for the rest of your life. And a lot of the places you may wanna rent as a student, a lot of the cheap student accommodation won't let you have pets and won't let you have reptiles. So, I've wanted a snake since I was a very little girl. I absolutely love them, but I waited until I had a house that we own. We don't rent this house, we own this house. And I don't need to worry about someone saying that they hate snakes and therefore I can't get a snake. If someone doesn't like a snake, they don't need to come to our house. You got a whole big life ahead of you. You don't need to get your snake right now while you're 14 years old and living with your mom. You can wait. So, I think that is it. If there's anything else, please let me know. I hope you're having an absolutely amazing day. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!